So Massive offered me a job as a junior game designer, multiple times actually. And if you don't want to take my word for it, then take the word of the developers themselves.
Hire Marco style. Well, he's free to send an application if you want.
Yep.
Hire Marco already. Well, he's free to send an application.
We've told Marco that he should apply. Come on.
And even though I've mentioned this whole situation a few times already in the past in a couple of my other videos, I never really got around to sitting down and just talking about everything and why I eventually ended up not taking the job, even though it would have been a really, really cool opportunity. But yeah, truth be told, right now we're slowly starting to enter that area where the Division itself is slowing down a little bit. There just isn't a whole lot to talk about, either until we hear about Year 3 content or the Division 2, and in the case with Year 3 content, I still don't think that we're going to get a whole lot, as I said in my predictions video. So I thought, with everything slowing down, why not talk about this right now? Because I know that a lot of you guys to this day still want to know what actually happened, especially seeing all the comments of people saying that I should go work for Massive or I should take the job. So yeah, what is the whole story behind this? All right, so the first time that the whole thing about being a developer actually came up in a conversation was not with the developer, but it was in a conversation that I had with SkillUp back when he still played the Division a lot as well, back in January last year, I believe. Even though at that point I was already ETF and I could already talk to the developers as much as someone could talk to the developers. Even though I was part of the ETF, SkillUp still talked more to the developers, not necessarily about balance and all those things, but just because, SkillUp likes to talk to people, I guess. And I'm more of a business person. I hate to say it like that, but I mostly only start conversations if I actually have a question or a comment on something, maybe some feedback, maybe some ideas. But I'm not going to go up to people and ask how they're doing or if they like the weather. I'm just not the small talk kind of person. But SkillUp, I think he is. I think he talks a lot to a lot of developers a lot of times, even though it's not necessarily always about game balance or about his opinions about certain things. So yeah, back in the day, he was the one that actually talked to the developers a lot, and then I talked to him every now and then. And he told me at one point that he always heard the developers complain many times about having trouble finding the right guys for the right jobs over at Massive. And so we got into a conversation, and eventually he told me that I should sign up for a job at Massive and try it out. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time. I told him that I'd meet about 2 out of the 30 requirements. But not long after that, in a conversation that I had with one of the developers, his name is Frederick Thailander, I talked to him a lot back in the 1.6 days about several things, gear sets, balance-related stuff, possible changes for the future. And we were having a conversation about Deadeye on patch 1.6, and then he randomly asked me if I had sent in my application to be a developer yet for Massive, to which I replied pretty much the same thing as I said to SkillUp. I asked the developer if he had seen the requirements, because I'm pretty sure I'd meet about 2 out of 30 of them. But then he replied to me that he probably wrote them, so, he knows the requirements. Now, I kind of wasn't sure if this was serious or just a joke, since we just had a conversation about Deadeye in patch 1.6, and I think this was right about at the time when I released my gear set tier list video for 1.6, where I placed Deadeye in tier 3, which obviously was a mistake. I eventually ended up making another video correcting my tier list, putting Deadeye at tier 1 where it belonged, because it was that strong of a gear set. But since we just came out of a conversation where basically I said that I was tier 3 and then it ended up being really strong and that kind of stuff, I thought this comment that he made about applying to be a developer was kind of like friendly banter, with the implication of saying, "See, Marco, it's not always as easy to balance things out as you think it is. How is it possible that you put Deadeye all the way this low on the list and it's now the strongest gear set in the game?" So yeah, we had a laugh and I didn't really go too much into it, and the conversation kind of shifted again, and that was that. Not long after that, I actually took a big break from the game, and the whole becoming a developer conversation wasn't brought up again until September last year, 2017, when I hit Hamish up with some questions about the 1.8 PTS. Yeah, in all that time, I guess I did not talk to a developer. Again, I really only sent messages to people when I when I have questions and that kind of stuff, which is maybe a bad habit, I don't know. Anyway, I asked Hamish some questions about the patch 1.8 PTS and about some changes to the gloves, because the gloves went from having flat weapon damage bonuses to percentage-based bonuses, and I wanted to know the exact values of those percentages in preparation for the video that I made on the topic, on whether the damage for the gloves was a buff or a nerf. Now, Hamish helped me out with that. And after that, he asked me if I was finally going to apply for that job at Massive. So yeah, 3 times is a charm. I was pretty sure that the offer this time was sort of serious, so I decided to ask more about the job this time around. Now, becoming a game developer, of course, sounds like a very cool opportunity, a very cool job, and it could be something that probably many of you watching would dream of, but I was also curious about what I would be doing on a day-by-day basis first before, jumping into it, because when I think about being a game developer, when I think about game development, I think about creating maps, creating story-driven content, cinematics and all that stuff, doing stuff with 3D objects, thinking about game mechanics and coding those in the game to make them work properly. And, spoiler alerts, apart from the relatively casual 3D sort of fake effects that I make in some of my videos, I really cannot do a whole lot in 3D. But then Hamish actually told me that I'd never need to code anything. I would just need to join a team, so to speak, and that team would then work together on thinking of mechanics for a game, thinking of how a game should be, and then another team would do the coding and such. So that sounded pretty good, but still, becoming a developer was a pretty big leap for me. I would have to move to Sweden, first of all. I would have to jump into the unknown. And the biggest letdown, I guess the biggest thing that actually caused me to not do it, was that I would have to give up on my YouTube channel, which, I worked all these years on my YouTube channel. I really didn't just want to toss that away. A lot of you might think that I could still do YouTube videos in Sweden as well, after work or during the weekends, and sure, that would be possible. I will not be able to post as much, maybe 1 video a week at most, but I would still be able to keep going with my YouTube at the same time. It wouldn't end completely, so to speak. But the thing is that even if I had the time to continue working on those videos at a decent rate, I would legally not be allowed to do so. This is what the big bummer was for me, because the moment that I would start a job at Massive, I would have to sign a contract that would say that I would not be allowed to have another revenue stream while working at Massive, or make videos on YouTube about The Division on my own YouTube channel, something that is not a Ubisoft channel. As Hamish worded it, the job offer is an all or nothing situation. Now, the reason for this is because of something called conflict of interest or something like that, which means that if I was a very bad person, I could either use the things that I would learn working at Massive to further boost my own YouTube channel. Like, I could go into Massive Studios, I could ask about things about the game, learn about things about the game that I would otherwise never be able to know, and then talk about those things on my YouTube channel, which is obviously not what they want. Or it could be the other way around. I could use my YouTube channel to further boost my reputation at Massive. In other words, I could stop being honest with you guys. Just to name an example, in the future with The Division, there might be an issue that for some reason can never be fixed. There is a bug in the game. That bug is never going to go away, and it's very frustrating, almost game breaking, so to speak. Now, this bug can never be addressed. It can never be worked out because it costs too much money to work it out. And being a part of Massive, I would of course not be allowed to just say, yeah, we can't fix that, because that would upset a lot of people. It would riot the community, so to speak. It would cause a lot of things that Massive would not want to have. So I would be under NDA. I would not ever be allowed to talk about those things. But with the position that I have on YouTube right now, a lot of you guys would probably expect me to talk about such issues instead of straight up ignoring them or not even acknowledging them. So working at Massive, it puts you in a weird spot if you were to continue making videos, because I could either still talk about all those issues on my YouTube channel, which would then come with a whole lot of problems because I would be borderline breaking NDA at that point, or I could not talk about them at all and basically just make build videos without anything else and just be dishonest with you guys about certain things because I would not be allowed to say those things. And that's just something that I couldn't see myself doing. By not taking the job at Massive, I would be able to talk about whatever I want. Maybe not always with the most accurate information. I'm not always right, but most importantly, I'm still able to say whatever I want. Whenever I want, I can speak my mind, I can talk about issues, give my opinions, and call Ubisoft or Massive out on things if I feel the need for it. If I want to talk about the bad netcode, the lag, or the hackers, right now I can. I can freely say that The Division's netcode and lag issues are horrible. If I worked at Massive, I would not be allowed to say just that, and I would get in trouble for that. Right now, I can freely drop my year 3 expectations or my The Division 2 predictions and expectations. And if I were to work at Massive, I would not be allowed to even say The Division 2, whether it's actually under development or not, because being a part of Massive and talking about The Division 2, a lot of people are gonna, think that's official information and that kind of stuff. So basically, for those reasons, I unfortunately had to decline the job offer as a junior developer. Not to say that I do not appreciate the offer a lot. To think that they would even want to hire me, that's, it's sort of an honor. I really hope that this video doesn't come off as ungrateful or anything. But there were just certain things that I couldn't get myself to do, like practically giving up on my YouTube and my online credibility to some part. In some ways, I just couldn't do those things. And yeah, that's basically the whole story. I told you before in other videos, it's not something really special. It's not a super special story. They offered me a job. The job came with certain conditions, and I declined it because of those certain conditions. And that's really as much as you're going to get. And now, when people in the comment section tell me to go work for Massive or take the job, I can at least link them to this video on why, even though the job is cool and it's an insane opportunity, seeing how I don't even have a college degree, it is probably not going to work out. And yeah, that's basically this video. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. As always, I'll see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.